Hey everybody, welcome to the I already messed it up.
Who am I? Where are
Off
we?
to a
Yeah.
great God.
Mm.
We didn't want this to be formal, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh my God. All
Just
right.
flying. We're
Three,
just
three, two, one. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Inside WAG podcast. I'm Josh,
and I'm Chris.
and today we have on Coach Amy Locati, who resides in Walla Walla, Washington. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah,
It's
Walla
a fun one
Walla,
to
Washington.
say.
The two things that I did some research, and the two things that Walla Walla, Washington is known for is number one, sweet onions,
Yeah,
correct?
Mm.
that's correct.
And number two is destination CrossFit. Is that true? CrossFit destination? Did I get it wrong?
Nope, Destination CrossFit.
Destination CrossFit? Okay.
I think now it's going by Destination Community Fitness, but same
Aha.
acronym.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
DCF. Yeah.
Yeah, those
You
are
got a shirt on.
pretty big here.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. People come
Yeah,
to Walla
DCF.
Walla, Washington for that CrossFit gym and or the sweet
Right.
onions.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Amy, thanks so much for coming on today. We're very, very excited to talk to you and get to know you a little bit better. I just kind of fumbled into that first question. The first question for you today is, where are you from, and who do you live with?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Walla Walla. So obviously I'm still here.
Oh, wow. Is it
So
is
it's a
it a
nice
big
little spot.
is it a big city?
It's not that big. I'm not actually sure what our population is now, but it was like 35,000 or 40,000 when I was growing up. I don't think it's changed too much. We've got some more people here coming in from the wine industry, but yeah, it's a small town. Lots of agriculture. The mountains aren't too far away.
Cool. Cool, cool. And you have husband?
I do. My husband John, and then we have a cat named Sam.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Will
it's
we
a
see
small family.
will we see will we see Sam today on the podcast?
It's possible. Sometimes he'll come up and he likes to meow and get my attention if I'm not focused on him. So
Yeah, I can
he's
I
old and needy.
I have an old and needy cat as well. I just
Yeah.
had to give her food so she would leave me alone for this,
Yeah.
but she still might come down and visit.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
So we know that you're in Walla Walla and you are co-founder of your CrossFit gym, correct?
Correct.
DCF. Okay.
Mhm.
And so how did you get into nutrition and fitness? And ultimately, how did that lead you to finding WAG as a client?
Yeah. So there was a pretty big gap of like any kind of nutrition or activity between high school and like, I don't know, probably 2012, which is when I found CrossFit. One of my good friends, Nikki, said, "Hey, there's this new thing called CrossFit that just opened. You know, we just opened a box in Walla Walla. Do you want to go check it out?" So I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." Um, it was in an old dairy warehouse. So huge, freezing cold, very like, garage gym kind of place. And then our coach was a um, Army Ranger. So
Mm.
Oh, wow.
that was my first like introduction. My first workout was Angie, which is the benchmark with all the hundreds. And so
Yeah.
it didn't scare me away though. I definitely like fell in love with it there, but that's kind of where I got started with CrossFit. And then with Nikki and a couple other friends, we opened our CrossFit gym after that one closed in 2016. And then I kind of stayed on board there as an owner until 2020. And now Nikki owns it, but I still coach there. And so when we opened the gym, I was kind of looking for other ways to like, I don't know, just improve my own performance. And of course, I'm watching the CrossFit Games every year. And I think Katrin, David's daughter, had done a post because she was working with WAG at the time. And I was like, ooh, that's what I'm going to go do.
Cool.
I'm going to
Oh,
go see
wow.
what it can do for me. So, yeah, Alexa was my coach, still is. And I
Awesome.
just fell in love with it. I didn't know anything about nutrition really. I just the guides of paleo or whatever that kind of
Yeah.
CrossFit talks about when you come in. But Yeah, it really changed my life. And it wasn't just about nutrition, but about like hydration and sleep and stress. And so I just learned like the whole picture basically. And then we opened the gym ourselves. I just saw an area where I could maybe start to help people. And I didn't expect it to turn into like getting a job with WAG at all. But it did. It was kind of like my dream job. And I didn't even think about shifting careers, but it just sort of fell in my lap and I went for it.
That's awesome. That was going to be another question was, what did you do before you
Yeah.
started nutrition coaching?
So it's completely different.
Well, for most of us, it was.
Yeah. I
Very.
worked in the wine industry
Oh, right
for
on.
15 years, but the last 13 years I worked at one winery in Walla Walla in particular, and I had all kinds of jobs there, but ended as the hospitality manager. And so yeah, big shift from like pouring wine and event planning and stuff like that to like nutrition and CrossFit.
Sure. Yeah,
Wow.
awesome. So that area you mentioned it kind of in the intro. There's a lot of wineries. It's kind of like
Yeah,
known for that up there.
definitely. It definitely bloomed. I mean, it's been a while now, probably 20 years, where it's been like a big industry here. But yeah, the land is really great for growing all kinds of agriculture. Obviously, we've got the onions, lots of wheat. There's apples and some orchards, but the vineyards really took off, and the wine industry just started to get more notoriety and attention. Wine ratings and a lot of people like magazines coming to visit, and so
Sure.
that's brought a lot of like restaurants. So yeah, it's kind of a fun little town now. It wasn't
Cool.
this exciting growing up, that's for sure.
There's a college there too, isn't there?
We've got a couple colleges. Whitman College is one. We've got a community college, of course, and then there's Walla Walla University, which is technically in College Place, Washington, but it's right here. Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
I'm looking it up on a map. I want to know
Oh
exactly
yeah.
where
Oh,
Walla Walla is on the state,
Yeah,
just
it's
like,
it's in the southeast corner, so we're really close
oh
to both
yeah.
Oregon and Idaho. Yeah, on the way other side of Seattle. So
Yeah. So you're near
yeah,
that big national forest out there. And
yep,
like, yeah, okay. You're in a really cool
yeah,
part of the state for sure.
so that's
it is.
Chris's jam.
Hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
there's
that's
mountains.
so yeah. And that's yeah, kind of one thing I wanted, since we're on the topic, I wanted to ask you about, like, yeah, how did you get into, or how did your passion for being outdoors and hiking and in backpacking and adventuring, because obviously you and your husband get out and do that
Mhm.
quite a bit, and it seems like every vacation that I've seen you take, that's what you go to do. You go to explore and see maybe newer familiar places or places that you love. So like, yeah, how did you get into that? Like, how did that world flourish for you?
It's so funny. We always, like growing up, my family would always go up to Wallowa Lake, which is in the Wallowa Whitman National Forest.
Yep.
That's only about 2 hours away from here. So we would go up there and camp every summer and like go up for my birthday in June. So that was always kind of there, but we didn't really get into hiking and backpacking until COVID hit. And it was like,
Oh, wow.
Wow,
I
that's
know, and it
surprising.
sounds so weird
Yeah.
because I love it so much now. I'm like, why didn't I start sooner? But I just didn't, I don't know. I just didn't. So
Yep.
Yeah.
COVID was like, okay, our gyms are closed. And I was also dealing with a bunch of injuries at that time, like some overuse injuries, just from a multitude of things, stress, whatever. Um, and so I wasn't working out much anyways. So I kind of had to look for other outlets. And I was like, what can I do? And hiking just kind of came about, and snowshoeing. And so that's kind of where it started, like 2019, 2020. Because I always liked the outdoors. We just never like made efforts to go and do bigger things and hikes and backpacking. So I like after my first day hike up there, we just fell in love with it. And I was like, I want to do this all the time. I'm gonna buy all the gear from REI and
Yeah.
like
Get fully equipped and prepared. Yeah.
and spend all this money. And like, you get excited about something and you just start buying all the
Yep.
stuff for it.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that's kind of where it started. So I honestly haven't been into it that long, but now I'm just like, I can't get enough of it. I want to do all these trails around here and travel around.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, one would not think that, taking a look at your Instagram and just kind of seeing your posts. And it's a good mixture of like nature and food and just all these great things that you're concocting and coming up with recipe
Yeah.
wise, and just showing off all the abundance of variety in your own nutrition,
Yeah.
which is really cool to see. You do some really neat stuff. and in such a beautifully presented way too.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Professional.
very
Yeah.
professional. Yeah, your food pics are just mwah.
It's funny. I have an aunt who actually was a food photographer for a living. I never knew
Wow.
this until like last year, but I was like, oh, it's my Italian side, but I think it's like in my blood because
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I have a hidden gift for taking pictures of food.
Hmm.
So I kind of along the lines of being active and being outdoors. Well, and Chris just touched on your Instagram account and the things that you post. There's a lot of there's food that looks awesome and looks delicious, and then there's a lot of outdoor pics. How has your relationship with CrossFit changed, like as the years have gone on?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. So at first it was kind of like just to hang out with my friends,
Right,
and it still is a lot of that. But I got really competitive. I mean, how can you not
right, yeah,
in that kind of space? So I got really competitive, and then I don't know. It's funny, it kind of came full circle. It was like, here I'm just doing it to stay healthy and be
hmm
fit and like hang out with my friends. And then
hmm
it got competitive. And then it was kind of like, okay, how do I stretch this out so that I can do this forever? Because,
yeah.
you're not young forever. So that's kind of how it's like evolved and changed. So I don't know. It's a
That's
tough one.
well, I think that I mean the only reason I brought it up was because I've getting into it early on. I mean, starting in what'd you say, 2012?
Well, yeah.
12, yeah. So I mean, the like inception or whatever, the beginning of CrossFit wasn't too much before that, a couple years, so you've
Mhm.
been in the game for a long time. And I find it fascinating to talk to people who got into it early on,
Mhm.
how it's evolved because as a gym owner, and I'm sure as you see, people go through different phases in their lives, and it fulfills different areas of their lives at different times.
Mhm.
So, and I know that you were very competitive. Like when I first met you, I think you were still doing like pretty high level competitions and things like that. And now
Yeah.
it's shifted more to like enhance your life outside of the
Yeah.
gym. It's less about life being the gym and
Right.
now the gym benefiting life outside of it. So that's why
Definitely.
I was really curious about that.
Yeah, it's definitely more like, I don't know if I just like used to define my like self-worth by my performance a
Hmm.
little bit. I mean, I think that's probably safe to say.
Sure.
And now it's like I'm more interested in just like lifting heavy and seeing what I can do instead of like, I don't know, not impressing other people, but sort of making a name for myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
And supporting the things that you love to do, like being
Yeah,
outdoors, and
exactly.
like that requires a certain level of fitness, endurance, mental acuity, and just
Mm,
mental strength
Hmm.
to get through some of these more grueling hikes and things, especially when you're getting up into elevation and all the things as you probably
Yeah.
learning in your experience getting out there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
you're supplementing that, and it allows you to do the things you love to do better. Well,
Exactly.
probably, right?
Yeah. And now I feel so much more well-rounded because I'm not just doing the one thing. I was
Yeah.
like very focused on one thing, and now I'm like focused on a lot of things. And it just, for me, it just feels better that way.
Hmm.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
cool.
it's probably a bit more freeing.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful place to be. Yeah. What was that transition like from coming from that previous wine world to, having a place to go to work and be at and a schedule
Yeah.
to adhere to all of a sudden you have this freedom and autonomy to really work at your own leisure,
Mhm.
as long as you're upholding the values of the WAG promise, the 24-hour check-in window and response time and things like that. So like, what was that transition like going from years of doing that to at home working?
Oh my gosh. Well, it was terrifying, honestly. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
can I do this? Right.
Yeah.
I working from home was like new. I
Yeah.
mean,
Was that appealing to you? Like, was that part of
it
the
was
excitement?
appealing.
Yeah.
It was definitely appealing coming up with my own schedule, but I almost didn't know what to do with myself at first because it's like, oh, I don't have to, clock out for lunch and I don't
Right.
have to work all my appointments around, whatever. So it was a big shift, but just because it was new, it was scary at first, but then I fell in love with it. I was like, wow, I can, as long as I get all my work done, I can set up my day however I want to. I can go and work out at noon. I don't have to work out at 6:30 at night anymore because it's like, after the work day. And
Right.
it just allowed me to structure my day how I wanted it to go and not necessarily how maybe somebody else wanted it to go. And having that freedom has just been like really nice. If I want to go and take a walk, I can go do that and then come back and work. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it was an easy transition. It was just scary at first because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is new.
Yeah. How long do you think it took you to kind of get into that groove and feel like confident in your morning rituals, your routines, and kind of restructuring? Because when you start to work from home, all that structure goes out the window, and it has to be a self-imposed structure, routine, rituals to kind of keep you on top of things, right?
Definitely.
So, yeah, did you feel like that happened relatively quick for you, or was it a process?
I think it was a process. It was probably like 3 or 4 months because I know at first, when like the check-ins kind of were lining up, I would like panic a little bit. And so I would work longer than I might normally. And then now I'm more chill. I'm like, everything's going to be fine. I have 24 hours. Like I don't need to clear everything
Yeah.
all the time. But, that's also coming from my other job where I was like on top of emails and making sure things were cleared. So it was just kind of shifting away from like, you don't have to do that right now.
Right.
And space it out. So it took me a few months to kind of let go of that old way of thinking and embrace the new one.
Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it now. It's great.
Yeah. It's nice to be in that groove and just have this like sense of like, I've got it all figured out. And then you just have this like, it's a constant evolution, right? Because you can constantly change your schedule and things to suit new things that you're incorporating in your life or what you want to do, or if you're whatever. And so it's nice to have that freedom and autonomy to do that. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So when did you officially start coaching for WAG?
2017.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The
Yeah.
very end of that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Year.
So 5 years. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Close 5.
Yeah.
In that time, what's one of the most proud accomplishments that you have experienced being a WAG coach?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I can't think of like one thing that really stands out.
I think
for
everyone
me,
that has been on the podcast has said like 2 or 3. So you're
Yeah.
good if you
Yep.
share away. Yeah,
good.
anything
I
really.
think, and it's probably going to sound really broad and generic, but I think for me, just like making a difference in people's lives, having somebody tell me that they're looking at something completely differently, or that I changed their life somehow, or that they are doing things that they didn't think were going to be possible. To me, that's been like my proudest accomplishment. It's just like being that person that was the turning point maybe for something.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of things like helping a client make weight and then win a meet and little things like that. But I think overall, I'm just as proud of those like CrossFit and weightlifting athletes as I am for like the mom who's finally proud, to be a role model for her kids and wear a swimsuit again or something.
Yeah. They all have like different levels of achievement for that person, but they're varying degrees, and they can still have that same impact on you as a coach of like, I made a difference in this person's life.
Yeah.
Because you got to share your experience going through this process as well, right? Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of people come in and they're like overloaded with health and fitness knowledge. And I like being that person to be like, okay, I'm going to break this down for you. You don't have to think about all of that. I'm going to tell you what to do. And I think it's pretty freeing for them.
Yeah. Like in a way, as a coach, we're here to help them kind of like clear and cut through the chaos of everything coming into them, food industry wise, the filter, and just saying, come with me. I'm going to show you the way, right? I'm going to lead you through all this stuff and BS that's coming your way and help you find the light and find your North Star to follow, kind of thing. In a way. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. On that note, what's one piece or maybe multiple pieces of advices, but kind of like what generally stands out as like a piece of advice that you love to give to your clients? Or what do you think is the most effective advice that you can give your clients in your experience?
Yeah, that varies too. But I mostly like to convey to people that they can be happy at more than one weight. I feel
Mm,
like a lot of people come in with this number from high school, from college, from before kids, from whatever. A lot of people come in with a number in their mind, and it's just not arbitrary, but maybe
right.
not, yeah, maybe not like where they need to be now. So I like telling people you can be happy at more than one weight because they could be feeling great and performing really well and not be at that number. And I don't want them to feel like that's some kind of a failure or you're not there yet
Mm.
because the number doesn't match. It's
Yeah.
just a number. So I definitely try to like steer clients away from the numbers. But yeah, so when I'm giving advice, I think that's one thing I really try to focus on is let's look at all this other stuff and just get you feeling like amazing and loving your life and not worry so much about that.
Yeah.
That's
Beautiful.
awesome. No one has really talked about that yet.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really, really good point. Like
Yeah.
you're at a different point in your life than you were 5 years ago when you were,
Mhm.
at maybe fitter or maybe lighter.
Mhm.
It's just, yeah, being happy with, it's okay. I think that people, especially in this day and age, like there's, a big like spotlight on accept self acceptance, and then on the other side, body shaming and things like that. And it's okay to want to lose weight. It's okay to want to improve, yourself. But the number, like you just said, the number might be more or less arbitrary. But
Yeah.
if you get feeling good and you're active and you're eating well and things like that, and like if you wanted, if just again arbitrary number, if a woman is 145 pounds and wants to be 135 pounds, and she gets to 140 and she feels amazing, like, is that failure?
Yeah.
Like, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. And I
Mhm.
think people have a hard time with that. So that's a really cool answer. I
Yeah.
haven't heard it like that before.
Yeah. And I think it works. I just really have to show people sometimes. It's like,
Mm,
hey, I know this isn't that number that you came in here with, but you're sleeping better. You're happy with what you're eating. You don't feel restricted. You're performing better. Like, what's bad? you
right.
know?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
How, I mean, maybe you just kind of gave us an example of that, but or how you talk to people about that. But I would imagine that's a hard pill to swallow for some people, or it's
Yeah.
hard to accept that. So like, how do you do that as a coach? Like, how do you, again, you don't need to use an example necessarily, but how do you phrase that in a way, that people hear it, like actually hear it?
Yeah. I guess I don't know if they do hear it sometimes.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm like,
how do you try to help them hear it then?
I'm going to explain this to
Mhm.
you in such a way. This is what I see. This is what I hear. So usually I'll just bullet it out, since our check-ins are mostly written. I'll kind of point out like, here's all the things you wanted to accomplish. And we've done all of that. What's missing or what's bad about that? Because I still do. I'll get people that say like, all of these things are good, but I am still not at my goal weight.
Hmm.
Like, okay. And then it is hard for me because as a coach, I'm like, I don't know what else I can do. Maybe their body's not meant to be at that weight anymore. In most cases, like women in particular, they've gained muscle, but it's hard to translate and think muscle, obviously muscle weighs something too. But it's hard to convince someone that they're, you know, not just like bigger. Or pictures are great. I use pictures a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't use the photo tools, I've noticed. So I'll
Yeah.
screenshot and email them pictures. And they're usually like, oh, okay, yeah, now I see
Yeah.
what you're doing. So if I have an opportunity to do that, then I'll throw that in there.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we don't know what the client doesn't know until we reveal that to them. Like, hey, did you know that you could see this comparison for yourself?
Mhm.
That was probably one of the biggest tools of motivation for me that I instinctively did when I was being coached was I would always compare my last progress photo of the month that month to my starting photo. And it was always just the checks and balances of like, yep, you might have questioned things, but like you are a okay, dude. Keep going.
Yeah, you're
Listen
still
to your
there.
coach. Yep, still there. And I've come this far, so I've still got some ways to go. And it was just perspective gain, really. It's a game
It's
changer.
very much, yeah, perspective's a great way of putting that. I
Mm,
definitely try to bring my clients perspective. Like, hey, let's get out of our head for a second and look at what's true and look at the facts.
yeah. Like what if maybe you weigh 10 pounds more than what you started, but you look entirely different, feel
Mhm.
different, and as a result, maybe have to eat more food to sustain that. What a
Yeah,
win-win.
exactly.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it seems like, yeah, you're just kind of encouraging your clients to kind of stay curious, like just
Definitely stay
get
curious.
outside of that
Yeah,
arbitrary number per se. Because yeah, a number can't necessarily bring you happiness, but what's going to happen when you step on the scale the next day after hitting that goal weight and it's not that goal weight, and it's like, what are you going to
right.
do with that information? How are you going to
Mm.
proceed? So yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of, yeah, puts things in check for sure. Yeah.
And we're always like human body's always changing and evolving. So you're never going to stay in the one place
No,
forever.
no,
So,
it's unreasonable. It's an unreasonable expectation. So yeah. Yeah. And that's what we're here to do, is to set reasonable expectations. Yeah. um, so like there's so much to know about you and there's so many things that you're involved in and that you've done. But what's something maybe most people may not know about Amy?
well, I've been asked this question before and I'm always like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nothing's interesting, but
That's not
well,
true.
Yeah.
That's not true.
since we're talking about Walla Walla and onions earlier, my dad, our family, farms Walla Walla sweet onions.
Oh, sweet.
So some people
How
know
about
that.
that?
But my first job was 14 years old and going out and working on the farm with my dad in the onion field every summer. I drove a forklift. So
Wow, at 14?
yeah,
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
That'd
and
be
I was
so
good at
fun.
it. So I think that surprises a lot of people. Here's this like little girl out in the field running around loading trucks and doing stuff with her dad. Yeah, long days, like 12, 14-hour days, which I hated at the time. I
Right.
was like covered in dirt. Every time I'd go home, it would be like a mud shower. But yeah, I actually, looking back, it was one of the best things I think I've ever done. Like it instilled a really good work ethic and all that. But yeah, that's probably something most people don't know. I don't think a lot of people would look at me and think that I rolled around in the dirt and drove forklifts and stuff.
Onion farmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, let's real quick. What was your first job, Josh?
Oh man. My first job, I worked at a grocery store.
Oh,
I,
sweet.
I lived in a small
Yeah.
town, a really small town too. It was like you worked at a restaurant or Tom's, the grocery store. And I actually worked at both eventually, but the first one was the grocery store. Yeah. What
Yeah,
about you?
nice. An ice cream truck. My mom's friend's boyfriend had an ice cream truck in Sanford, Maine, and would drive around Springvale, Sanford. And I think I was like 10 or 11 or something at the time. He's like, come along with me. My mom's like, maybe he could make some extra money and do this. So I was like 10 or 11 trying to give change to like, kids coming up when we were doing Springvale. And it was like manageable, just selling, ice cream out of a truck. And then it was like, hey, you ready to go to Old Orchard Beach? And at the time I was having problems giving change on the fly without a calculator, like doing the math in my head. And it's like the stress started to build up. So I'm like, I don't know if I can handle that, man. Old Orchard Beach is hella crazy and busy. That's really fast paced for me. And this is my first day. And I'm like, I don't know if this is for me. And he's like, all right, that's fine. And then he paid me for the day with a Choco Taco.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
That was my pay for a day, like 4 hours of work was a Choco Taco. So yeah. Yep.
Paid in Choco Tacos.
Yeah, man. Yep.
What a
10 years
life.
old, what else do you need?
That's right. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Amy, I guess before we sign off here, is there anything else you would like to share with the people that might be listening to this, if whether they're WAG clients or not? What's some like parting words in regards to nutrition that might help someone out just listening to this?
Hmm. Parting words. I don't know. Just have an open mind, I guess, and try things like experiment with yourself. Use yourself as an experiment and try a bunch of new things and just see what sticks. And also just, yeah, if you think there's something you want to try, especially with a nutrition coach like we do, um, do it with a coach. If you want to try a keto plan, if you want to do a Whole 30 plan, like do it with a coach so you can kind of get feedback and look at it objectively. And yeah, just see what sticks because there's no like one thing I don't think that's going to work for everyone. And you kind of have to be a self experiment and see what ends up working for you.
Mm, yeah. Run the experiment, look at the data, be
Yeah.
objective.
Hmm.
Yeah. And work together as a team.
Definitely.
Yeah. I love that. It's the way to do
Yeah.
it. This is the way.
Yeah. Well, me and Chris both alluded to before, Amy has a really, really professional looking Instagram account where she takes beautiful pictures of food and her outdoor adventures. So, Amy, do you want to share your handle real quick?
Yeah, it's just my name, Amy Locati. Super creative.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's mine is Coach Josh Holton. It's like I wonder what
Yeah,
he does, and I
I
wonder what
know.
his name is. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
And for everyone, that is Amy, AMYLOCATI. So definitely go check her out. Give
That's
her a
yeah.
correct.
follow. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, like if you want to get coaching and try out maybe something that you've never done before with a certified coach, like Amy or myself or Chris or anyone else that's on the team, go to workingagainstgravity.com and look at what we have to offer. And we'd all love to meet you and have you on board. So yeah, check it out. Amy, thank you very, very much for coming on today. Really
Thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me.